to my Capstone exhibition, Benefits of Project-Based Learning on Secondary Student Learning. My name is Tesneem Galgal, and I would like to take a moment to introduce myself. I've been teaching for 5 years for Gwinnett County Public Schools. I am a sixth grade science teacher. I currently serve as the course team lead and department head for the sixth grade science department at my school. I've been married for a little bit over a year to my husband, Brandon, and I have three daughters. My daughter Jemiah and my two bonus daughters, Cassie and Abaya. My aspirations is to get into a leadership program by fall of 2023. I want to become an assistant principal within the next 2 to 3 years, and I plan on and hopefully beginning my doctoral program by spring 2024. I would like to take a moment to thank you all for joining me today in serving as evaluators and helping me throughout my journey here at Piedmont University. Thank you, Dr. Winstead, for your help and encouraging words throughout this entire learning process. I chose this topic because it aligns with my teaching pedagogy. The three elements of my teaching pedagogy is positive attitudes, relationship building, and setting high expectation. These elements all intertwine to create a productive student-centered learning environment. By having a positive attitude, it leads to building a trusting student-teacher relationship that motivates my students to work up to meeting my expectations. The theory that my research focuses on is constructivism. Students learn through their experiences, and the use of project-based learning allows for authentic learning opportunities where students are able to work within a democratic classroom where student voices are heard and develop as learners. This is crucial for a middle grades classroom. I learned in my education middle grade 645 course that middle grade students are in a developmental stage. Students entering in middle school are at a point in their lives when they are no longer considered a child, but developing into their adolescence age. They're preteens. They're more inquisitive and they want to be more independent. This requires teachers to be more open to learning new instructional strategies and approaches that fit the changing needs of our students. My research aims to answer the question, how does implementing project-based learning benefit student learning? In order to answer that question, I have to first explain what is project-based learning. Project-based learning is a teaching method in which students learn by actively engaging in real-world, meaningful projects. Why should teachers use project-based learning? I provided you with 4 reasons. Educators must become more innovative and tapping into our students' interests and developing instruction that addresses student various learning styles. Reason 2, teachers can shift away from traditional teaching styles to a more constructive classroom. Reason 3, project-based learning gets students more engaged and active in their learning. And lastly, reason 4, students are free to explore real-world phenomena while developing a deeper and more enriched understanding. The Buck Institute of Education helps teachers develop effective project-based learning by creating the gold standard of project-based learning. Students are first presented with a prompt, problem, or challenge to ignite curiosity. Students then craft a driving question. Students are then able to actively research to answer that question. Students then document their learning process and provide feedback to their peers. Students create a product to demonstrate their learning and understanding and then present it to an audience. Students then reflect on their process and receive feedback from their peers and teacher. Students are then assessed on their learning and understanding based on their product. How does project-based learning increase student motivation? The nature of project-based learning is interactive and hands-on, and it promotes a democratic and student-centered learning environment. The results of Holmes and Holmes 2016 research found through a survey that students engaged in project-based learning in a high school math course found that there was a 23% increase in students feeling that they had control over their learning. Also, there was a 42% increase in students feeling that they felt more intrinsically motivated. And also, there was a 34% increase in interest in students wanting to collaboratively work. The research found that PBL is an effective tool to engage students and make learning more meaningful. How does project-based learning improve student 21st century skills? What are 21st century skills? They are critical thinking, communication, collaborative, creativity, and inquiry and research skills. Project-based learning increases communication and listening skills as students engage in peer discussion when articulating their ideas and plans. Research done by Issa and Kamath in 2021 through a survey found that students engaged in a project-based learning have a higher average value of critical thinking skills than students in a traditional course. Students who actively develop these skill sets are more qualified for the global career market and will be equipped to address real-world problems. Evidence shows that there is a direct correlation between project-based learning and student achievement. In a study done in 2016 by Caesar et al., using pre- and post-test data obtained from student work sample showed a deeper understanding of the content knowledge after the completion of a project-based learning in a geography course. As you can see in the pre-test, student responses show that students lack prior knowledge and they actually answered the question incorrectly. Compared to the post-test responses, the post-test responses were well detailed and students accurately used academic language to answer their question. Copron and Gouvon 2015 research explored the effects of project-based learning on 70 participants in the 8th grade statistical mathematics course. There was a 44% increase in average score for students who participated in PBL learning compared to the 11% increase in the control group who receive traditional lectures. Holtis et al. 2018 research on 6th grade students found that students engaged in project-based learning had an average increase on the state's end of grade standardized test. As you can see, students outperformed their counterparts on both the math and the ELA portion of the assessment. Also, their research found that English language learners who engage in project-based learning outperformed their counterparts on the California English Language Development Test. These students were able to develop their literacy skills as they engage in group discussion, peer review, and class presentation. Lastly, in 2018, Kingston conducted a literature review and research analysis on project-based learning that showed a trend of students who engage in project-based learning education had an in-depth understanding and mastery of the curricular aim through various grade levels and contents. You can click through and see all of the various research that Kingston found on project-based learning across various grade bands and subject areas. If PBL is so great, why isn't it already used in the classroom? Because teachers and students have hesitations with using project-based learning. Teachers feel that implementing PBL may not be aligned with the instructional calendar. School districts have to offer opportunities for teachers to learn how to properly implement project-based learning in their classroom, to give teachers more exposure and time to practice and develop comfort with using project-based learning. Teachers do need classroom management due to the nature of the student-centered learning environment. Teachers have to feel comfortable with letting go of control of their classroom to let students take lead. And from a student's point of view, students might not have previous experience working on project-based learning. projects and may need more modeling and scaffolding to prepare them. Students need to understand that project-based learning is a process of trial and error, and reflection is a critical component in project-based learning. Students need to understand that it is okay to have a productive struggle, and having a growth mindset is very important to help them perform better. Students need to be equipped with the necessary skills to conduct project-based learning. For example, a shy student has to be willing to collaborate with others. I use project-based learning in my classroom to teach a weathering, erosion, and deposition unit to my sixth graders. Over the years, teaching this unit, I learned that it requires more than just lectures and guided notes to deepen student content knowledge. I use project-based learning lesson where students had to develop their own river models through trial and error to create a river delta. Back in fifth grade, my students were taught about weathering, erosion, deposition because they were constructive and deconstructive forces that shaped Earth. My students were able to apply their prior knowledge as they researched and developed their river model. This PBL was successful because there was enough time built into curriculum for students to develop their models. I could have provided them with a model as you see in the presentation here to let them practice making a delta. However, I wanted to give my students opportunity to be creative and extend their learning by developing their own models to authentically understand the formation of rivers and deltas. Also, many of my students have never seen a river or delta in the real world. So this gave them opportunity to create their own version of it. I was able to actually use these student models in my rising sixth grade gifted presentation to promote my school's gifted program. Although this PBL lesson was successful, I did have some groups struggle with the teamwork portion because they all had different ideas on how to build their models. They started to not listen to each other. So this showed that working as a team can have its struggles, but it can be overcome. I would like to take a moment to highlight. I would like to take a moment to highlight a work sample of a student reflection. He explained that his group struggled with balancing all of their ideas, but they decided to vote as a team on the best way to build their models. I was able to assess their understanding of how erosion led to the formation of a delta based on their written reflection. Here are some work samples. My students were able to compare the river models to the Mississippi Delta. Since my students work in heterogeneous groups that supported various levels of students, there were some students in the room who needed additional scaffolding as they developed their models. One of my classes is a mixture of gifted and ELL students. The groups with the EL students were given models as visual aids to help students develop their thinking. I provided the students with opportunity to practice using these models with steps prior to building their own models. Here are some potential ideas that I would like to further research as I pursue my education and possibly answer through my doctoral program. In conclusion, project-based learning has several benefits for student learning that I discussed today, such as increase in student engagement and motivation, growth of student 21st century skills, and also increase in academic achievement. As we move in the future, school districts should consider how they utilize resources and time to make room for project-based learning in the curriculum. Here are the reference grades you're able to click to view my reference for my research. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me today in my presentation. Thank you. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys on April 27th at 5:30 for our Q&A session. Bye-bye.